Okay, so moving on, after that conversation on leading from the front, we look at gender bender or gender no bar. Women in leadership, driving with purpose and fulfillment. This session is again moderated by Muktalad, the editorial consultant of Comms News, and includes Bhuvaneshwari Cheruvu, our teens, Geeta Banjia, Phillips, Preeti Binoy, Kimberly, Clark, Priya Patnakar, PhonePe, Sushmita Bandopadhyay, BT, and it's moderated by Mitu Samar from Eminence. Mitu Samar from Eminence moderates this conversation. So can I invite Bhuvaneshwari Cheruvu, Geetika Banjia, Preeti Binoy, Priya Patnakar, Sushmita Bandopadhyay. Over to you, Mitu. The screen, stage, all of it is all yours.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be a part of a panel with such accomplished women, and I'm sure it is attended by the industry experts as well as amateurs who are trying to learn a lot from these accomplished women. So our topic is on gender bender. To a great extent, these are the women who have tried defying the traditional norms and have tried not only to just defy them, but also establish a name for themselves and create a professional imprint in whatever they do. What's more, each of these are, holding leadership positions in organizations which are, again, of repute. So, like how they keep talking about whenever there's a conversation on gender and diversity and women workforce, conversation always is around the leaky pipeline on how a lot of us are not able to even sustain the entire corporate pressure. These women, including myself, I would say that we have not only stayed here, but have fought the stereotypes, have made our own presence felt, and are holding leadership roles in variety of organizations. So having established that, let me move straight to the conversation and invite Bhuvaneshwari here and hear from her that what did she do, not only to break the gender stereotype, but also leverage the core of this gender, which is based on compassion. So over to you, Bhuvaneshwari. Bhuvaneshwari, you have to unmute your line.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and wishing everyone a brilliant and fantastic Women's Day and a fabulous 2021 to a very agile, compassionate, and balanced leadership that we're trying to bring about in the workforces that we are, right? So when we talk about gender bender and breaking the stereotypes, there is something that I would like to start the conversation with and probably set context for the rest of my colleagues and peers from the industry here to talk about. So a couple of months back, I came across an article in the New York Times titled "Picture a Leader, Is She a Woman?" Right? It was a title that struck my attention. And when you look at it, what that article actually said was that when a lot of people were asked to draw an efficient leader, most of the times, including women, drew a man, right? That has to say something. So subliminally in our thoughts, leadership is being attached to strength. And when we are saying strength, the association is more to physical strength, right? And that is what I would say is a very classic stereotype. And how are we breaking that stereotype, right? And what are we trying to do to break that stereotype? I'm very glad that, I come from a family that has taught me to break the stereotype, because I did this little experiment at home and I was very surprised to see even my little nieces drawing women, right? So I think there is something right that we've been doing. And if I have to talk about what I have seen, so 10 years of leadership roles, has taught me something, that it was not very easy for making ourselves get a voice at the table, right? I would say that I've worked with a lot of good men in leadership, and that has actually given me this the support and the necessary additional advantages to reach to where I am. But now, when we are talking about what are the conscious choices that I'm making, right? And how am I negotiating my choices to be where I am and to actually create an impact in the position where I am? I take a choice to voice my opinion out and ask to be treated equally when I am not, right? There are a lot of times we keep talking about somebody treating us equally, but are we opening our mouth and saying, hey, listen, I'm not being treated equally and I want to be treated equally? I think that is a very, very important thing. And another thing that I have been doing over my career is to trust my own inner voice and advocate for myself. So these are a couple of things that have actually helped me in trying to break out of the stereotypes when they actually existed. And I would like to pass it on to my next speaker to put in their thoughts.
Absolutely. The two important points that you mentioned, negotiating your choices and also being visible, that's very important. And that takes me to Geeta. Geeta, having worked in a multinational company, where there are structures, your bosses are sitting in various geographies. How does one even make themselves visible? As a gender, we have a challenge, but then it's a bigger leadership challenge as well. So how do you make yourself visible? What's your take on that, Geeta?
Okay, me too, it's Gitika.
Sorry.
So, no worries, no problem. So first of all, thank you so much, and Team Reputation India, and of course, as my fellow industry colleagues, it's so glad to be here with all of you. And Bhuvneshwari, well, she kick-started the entire pretext or the context of the conversations that we were wanting to establish here today. Is that was absolutely very much positive on terms of breaking those stereotypes that we all women have been grown up, especially in a society like ours, a country like ours, and taking that thing forward. And as you asked me, Mitu, that working in a large organization, or how does that connect, or whether it's in terms of survival, or those terms that we are talking about. I would like to add something here. In my viewpoint, in my personal view, whether one works in a global organization, whether it's a local organization, I personally think that as a professional, whether you are a male or a female, most important thing is what value you bring onto table as a functional leader. That is one of the most imperative things that is coming up in the last few years now. How you create a niche for yourself, and then how you define the ecosystem around you in which you are operating, and how the organization then starts responding to you, how they start reaching out to you, how they start engaging with you, and then at the end, how you create that repository of respect for yourself. So it is not just, whether a male leader is doing it or a female leader is doing it. So, and I would like to also add here, gone are those days when, people when people were used to getting that respect just flashing with designations or visiting cards now. Those days are over now. However, now in today's scenario, the actual respect comes to you only as a professional when you bring that value add to the work that you can bring onto the table when you're working in a particular organization, and when you help the organization to achieve the particular objectives, their vision statement, their mission statement, and how you as an expert, as a functional leader, or carrying that functional expertise with you. And with that, I feel, Mitu, it's nowhere a question of a man a man leader or a woman leader is able to survive. This is an absolute thing where you can just think of thriving and not just surviving.
Absolutely.
So it's all about bringing that value to the work that you are getting onto the table. Apart from that, the experience that you are carrying with you, and how much connected you feel to the organization that you're working for, and get into the grassroots levels and bring up solutions to those problems. How open you are to feedback, and
Yeah.
how encouraging as a leader you are to personal and professional growth. So that's what my take is on this.
Great. No, I completely agree with you. In fact, a challenge like this, where you talk about working from the grassroots level, extremely pertinent, but becomes very difficult when you're working in companies which have cultural diversities also, right? We all are talking about diversity. Gender diversity definitely is challenging, but cultural diversity again is another big challenge that we all face. And here I would like to understand Preeti's comment, where how are you managing between multiple cultures that you work around, Preeti, and still again have your voice heard?
Hi, Meetu. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me part of this panel. Belated Happy Women's Day to all the fantastic women leaders that are on this call and listening as well. Meetu, what a fantastic discussion to have, right? And while I was listening to Bhuvaneshwari, Kitika, I'll just give you a small instance. It just goes back for me to remember just two purpose statements purpose words that I really hold strong to me, right? Voice and the mind. I've always believed that for an individual, and I'm saying an individual, it could be a male, a man, or a woman, right? For you to be possibly heard in the business community or at your workplace, you definitely need to use the mind to be able to bring out your creativity. I'm just replicating what the other two leaders just now said, right? At the same time, a very important point that Bhuvaneshwari brought out, let your voice be heard. Because you might have some great ideas, some great thoughts. And if you're not going to able to bring them to the table or to the forefront, you're always going to be the backbencher. You will never get that front seat. Having said that, cultural differences, cultural biases do exist, do persist, right? And especially for a lot of leaders like us who work in matrix organizations, who work in multinational companies, we've seen that all over. But I definitely would say, and I can definitely speak for us Asians as well, I'm seeing more and more Indian talent, be it a man or a woman, taking the center seat, taking the center stage, and goes back to showcase, right? Yes, they have intelligent minds, great minds. I'm not saying the others don't. What we are doing differently possibly is getting our voice out there, getting heard there. And that possibly is the reason that we see a huge shift and change happening. I'm also seeing a big, huge change happening for Indian leaders going into larger roles in organizations or in multinational companies. It's because they're seeing that the talent is really getting nurtured there, and we're making optimal use out of it.
Yes.
Right? So I do see that really working well and wonders for a lot of women leaders as well. And I think it's just not the fear that we should let sit with us to say that, oh my God, I'm working in an organization where there are going to be huge cultural differences. There could be barriers pertaining to my skin color and may not give me a leader seat, right? That's not the case. It's changing, it's evolving. And I think it's also changing and evolving because of a lot of people like us, right, who have decided to come to the forefront and make that change. And hence, I would go back to the same principle of what possibly the two leaders also spoke about. Get the mind to work around, showcase your strengths, but most importantly, let that voice be heard. Culture does not become a barrier then in any kind of matrix organization that you're working.
True that. In fact, if you get your voice heard, I think more and more people are receptive to that. Like even the organizations that I have worked in, all multinationals, but yes, similar experience. So I completely resonate with your thoughts and opinion. And however, something which really struck out for me was while we do all these things, trying to position ourselves in leadership roles, etc., but at the same time, self-confidence is extremely essential. We have to believe in ourselves, and for that, one of the things which is very, very essential is how financially sound or financially comfortable we are, because a lot of us don't raise the voice with the fear of losing our job. But if we have financial independence, some of us can even take a step like me, who chose to be an entrepreneur and set up an organization of our own, right? So that takes me to Priya, and let me hear her opinion on what does she think about financial independence for women, how important it is. Priya, over to you.
Thank you, Meetu. Great to be here. I think you hit the nail on the wall when you said financial independence is extremely important. And I think as women, if you look at our childhoods also, right? I mean, most financial decisions sort of bypassed us. If there was a car the family was buying, you'd see the boy of the house extremely excited. Very few of us would be participating in that decision. No, she doesn't know much, is not interested in cars. When it starts like that, when you grow up, the bigger decisions start bypassing you. Essentially, I know so many, I have a team, almost all girls team. I know so many of them, they're aware of what they are earning, but they don't know how to save enough. The KYC process is something they've completely outsourced to the men in the house. Most of them are wary that, hey, if we end up investing and we make a bad decision, what happens? I don't see the men sort of the house playing the stock market and thinking, hey, I made a huge loss, therefore should be a little more circumspect about investing. So essentially, I think what ends up happening is, unless there is financial independence and we women consciously think of it, our entire thought process gets governed by it very strongly. I'll give you an example. I think it's known that women generally negotiate their salaries very badly. I've been told that in jobs. I've been hired and there are managers who've told me to my face, hey, we were looking at a candidate at a 25% higher salary bracket than you negotiated. You did a bad job on that. And we also then consciously start taking up roles with fewer P&L responsibilities because we are shying away from the financial aspects of our lives. So I think it's a vicious circle. We need to make sure that we make women or men, it needs to be gender agnostic. Financial literacy is a must.
Absolutely. Financial literacy is a must. And then comes the second aspect of taking care of ourselves, which is the healthcare, right? So a lot of us assume, again, a gender stereotype that we are the caregivers, right? So we keep giving care, we keep taking care of our people, but a lot of times we forget to take care of ourselves. So much so, like we were having a chat earlier where we discussed that a lot of us don't even have an insurance for our own selves, as basic as that, talking about financial independence. So let me move on to Sushmita, who represents this industry also, and talk to her about breaking the stereotypes with respect to healthcare and women.
Thank you, Meetu. Thank you for that question. Yes, it is indeed a stereotype that women are caregivers and we really cannot take care of ourselves. So I think first we need to break that stereotype that we are allowed to take care of ourselves, and taking and self-care, if you go by the definition, it's something that you need to replenish yourself, and it can't be just about indulgence. The world teaches us that you find out an escape route, go to the hills and, come back rejuvenated. But typically what happens, even if you're going out on a vacation, you come back very tired because you're actually running from pillar to post. So the concept of self-care has to be that I'm allowed to take care of myself. I need to let go of that criticism, that criticism that I am very critique of myself and I'm very harsh on myself. I need to let go of that. That's very important. We are obsessed with being the perfect, having it all kind of women leaders. I think we need to just let it go. Let that, because in the previous panel, I heard someone say that I'm being very harsh on myself. I understand that the moment we get into a job, into a leadership position, we are under scrutiny. We have 90 days to prove ourselves, right? But I think we need to let it go. Let that go. You will shine wherever you are planted. You will bloom. That is for sure to happen. So a good combination of wisdom and compassion can bring in effective leadership in women. I think I will leave it at that, because I know we have some more things to add on to by our other panelists. Thank you so much.
Lovely. I think very, very pertinent point that you brought out, Sushmita. In fact, at that, we will also encourage audience to ask questions parallelly. We intend to, keep the session a little interactive. We already have our first question coming in, so I will take that. But I would encourage audience to, ask questions as we go along. So this question is about it's about people in the Northeast community. What can we do? So according to the question, a group that is not very present in mainland India, what can we do to encourage these communities? It's a very, very important question. India is a country which itself is full of diversity. So since the question is pointed towards Preeti and her comment, let me let her answer this question.
Thanks, Meetu. Wow, I was kind of expecting that question, but I think I'll go back to the same statement I made. Let your voice be heard, right? Today, not only restricted to communications, but when you look at the fields, the kind of talent that's coming from Northeast is wow, right? And the reason very clearly is they let their voice be heard. Get the mind and the voice in action. Get them to work well to see the change, to see wonders. So that's just the mantra, and I strongly believe that one should follow that. Not only if you're someone from Northeast, you could be from any part of the country, right? When you have the mind which has some fantastic talent, and you have the voice more than important, that's where you will be able to shine.
Absolutely. Anybody else who wants to add to this thought? Geetika, you want to add some?
Yeah, sure, Meetu, and absolutely taking from what Preeti said, that your voice needs to be heard. And I would like to reiterate on the initial thoughts that I shared, that it's all about your professional and your strong personality that needs to come out in terms of your expertise and the value add that you can bring. Be it anyone, like Preeti said, that she mentioned, it's not just about Northeast or North or South of the country. It's not about that. As a professional, as a strong person, as an individual, if you have that in you, nothing can stop you. So you bring that value add on the table, and sky is the limit for you. So that's what I would like to advise whoever the person who has asked this question.
So Meetu, I want to add a point here, Meetu.
Yes.
As much as we want people to voice their opinions, right? As a part of the leadership, right, there is something called conscious inclusiveness that we need to practice, right? So there are certain communities, I agree, India is a diverse country, right? And there are certain communities that have been feeling this for a very long time. So from a leadership perspective, I think it is imperative that we act conscious and include, because an unconscious exclusion is what makes people feel left out, right? So if there are people, there are different ethnicities in your group, as a leader, you need to make that choice and you need to be extremely conscious that you are including them and putting an effort to include in the, just so we don't exclude without our knowledge. I think that is something that I keep reiterating to everybody on my leadership team, because we need to facilitate it for the youngsters. And when they feel comfortable is when they voice what they're thinking.
Absolutely agree with you, Bhuvna. In fact, this is something I consciously practice, where conscious inclusion is something we must do. And again, it is not about gender. It is not about the area from where one belongs to or anything. Even, say, for instance, a group of youngsters might feel intimidated in a meeting which is comprising of seniors and juniors both. So in a situation like this, including them consciously will make them feel more included and more valued, respected, and that will help them grow better as professionals. So yes, conscious inclusion is a very, very important point that you brought out. In fact, that brings us to the next question, which is again very similar to the point that you had made, though it's a question from an anonymous attendee. But the question says that, do you think that men leaders, especially, are conscious of and acknowledge importance of compassion? A discussion that we had in detail even yesterday about it, is compassion gender agnostic or not? So let me first ask you, Bhuvna, about your thoughts, and then if anybody else wants to add.
I think compassion is gender agnostic, but why sometimes we land up associating it with the female gender is because, physiologically and psychologically, women are made to be compassionate because it's the womb and the umbilical cord. And going back to life sciences, right? We are structured that way. But having said that, trust me, I am where I am today because of the compassion of a lot of male leaders I've worked with. So I think it is gender agnostic, but considering that women get it more naturally, probably sometimes the other side has to put in an effort to work on it. And that's what I would say. But then again, you could be extremely intelligent, your IQ would be hitting through the roof, but without compassion, there is no leadership. Empathy and compassion should come before everything else.
True, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, that another anonymous attendee, please share your names. We want to know you better. So another anonymous attendee is asking this question, that can we talk about how women are expected to have masculine leadership traits to be seen as good leader? Sushmita, do you want to share some thoughts on it?
So there's a recent movie on Netflix which talks about Steve Harvey's book. It's based on that book. Yes. Think like a man and act like a lady. I completely reject that. Why do I need to show my masculine trait to impose that, yes, I am a woman leader? Come on. Gender has nothing to do with leadership. Yes, if I'm compassionate, if I'm wise, if I have the right skill set, the right attitude that I bring to work, I am a good leader. And leadership is also about situational leadership. It doesn't come with titles always. You look at a mother, for instance, in a family, she's a leader, while man is the stereotype breadwinner, but woman, mother is the leader. That's a role that she's playing. So I completely, would throw a fit at this actually. But what I would suggest that let's look at some actionable points which can enable even our men leaders, sorry to use men leaders, to be perceived as compassionate. They believe in networking. We all believe in networking, the power of connections, mind network, to collaborate and bring together people. That is being compassionate. We only believe that being compassionate is being soft-hearted, being empathetic, being in someone else's shoes, allowing that half-day parental leave which is needed. No. Compassionate is this group, if we gather together even after today's webinar and connect with each other and continue to invest in each other's lives, that's being compassionate. So I think it's gender agnostic. I strongly believe in that. yes, I would like to end at that and allow other speakers to add. Thank you.
Sure. Priya, do you have any thought on?
Sorry.
Sushmita has just put that so beautifully, I thought. I mean, I think the only thing I'd like to add is the myth is that women can't take hard decisions. I mean, I've had conversations in which, colleagues have said that if a colleague has to be given tough feedback, are you up to it? So, and I've told them on occasions, of course I'm up to it. I mean, why wouldn't I be up to it? Just because I'm compassionate otherwise doesn't mean that my gender sort of stops me from being objective to get the job done. I think that's a myth which is sort of mistaken for being empathetic or compassionate. But I've seen, I mean, as women leaders, we are negotiating tough decisions all the time. I don't see that coming in the way at all.
Absolutely. In fact,
Neetu, I would like to add something here. Yeah. So, I mean, Sushmita has just nailed it and she just put it beautifully. And in fact, that was something passing across my mind also. And I had read this very beautiful line somewhere that feminine is not a gender. It's just a dimension of our society. So without females, of course, a society's existence is absolutely questionable. But why are we just, always getting into that debate of a male and a female? Any leader, any form of leadership, any person has some or the other form of leadership qualities in them. It is a very natural quality which is ingrained. It's just, it depends from a person from a person to a person, whether male or a female, how that person nurtures this quality and comes up with it bad or beautiful. That's it. And I mean, one of the, I would not say one of the most beautiful point that Sushmita also said, our mothers, they are born and natural leaders. They take everything at the front foot. They lead from the front. They make a house, run a family, keep the family members together, just like a leader who tries to keep his or her team at the work front, which is extremely important for achieving any kind of success in our life. So I think that's one of the most beautiful points that we have tried to make across, in our discussion today.
Meetu, I would like to add one very quick point, Meetu, because this is a beautiful line, right? And I totally accept with what Geetika and Sushmita have said, and that is the whole concept of the yin and the yang, right?
Yeah.
There is a masculine and a feminine in each of us. And when we bring out what aspect of our personality is what is the most important, and that is what balanced leadership is, right? Balanced leadership is not having 4 women and 4 men in a boardroom. Balanced leadership is the man or the woman bringing out the necessary quality at a given point in time to lead from the front in an appropriate manner is what is important. Right. And as Sushmita said, I would throw a fit for things like that as well. Be a man and act like a woman. I'm like, who creates these kind of things? And somebody who gives an okay to copy like that, I think the corporate communications should form a mutiny. Right? That's unacceptable copy. But balance, yes. The balance of the yin and the yang is the most important.
Yeah, these are all traits, right? And all of us need to have various leadership traits in us, irrespective of our gender. And I think a lot of us, all the panelists who are present here, and I'm sure quite a lot of listeners as well, we all believe in the fact that it's not got to do with our gender, which makes us successful, professional. Forget the leader, that also comes at a later stage. But as for being a successful professional, it is the qualities in us that we are harnessing, which is what makes a difference and helps us leave a professional imprint. Than whether we are more masculine, more feminine, or we are born men or a born woman or anything of that kind. And at this heated conversation, I was just going to move to a certain question, but then suddenly an audience question has come. So let me first take that before I move to our concluding remark. The question is, what is your opinion on maternity leave? Because women exert themselves too much and cut short their leaves because they are scared to lose the job. Also, they are not given important, challenging tasks after that. Khushi, coincidentally, my daughter's name is Khushi too. So this question seems very personal, but a lot of us here are mothers. So we have gone through that. Each of us have children at different life stages. So all of us have our own experiences to share. My personal experience has been that it's all up to us how we are, responding to this situation, because every maternity situation itself is different. So there is no one answer to this question. One thing that I realized is it was important, like we are going through a lot of uncertainty and feel, disappointed when organization shortchanges us because of us going on maternity leave. Even organization has a challenge. They are not having you for almost about a year, right? So it is equally important for us to make our communication very clear with the organization too. What are our plans? And again, very significant for us to keep the communication two way, and all of us are communicators. So while we are expecting organization to work in a certain manner, we also have to respond accordingly. On that note, let me just bring in Priya and request her to respond to this question.
So, I'm a parent who did go on leave. When I came back, my role did not exist in its current form. I mean, that's how life is. I have people in my team who've gone on maternity leaves. They've come back. Was I able to retain the same role 6 months down the line? No. But were we able to honestly work around giving them a role which they liked in my team? Yes. Because I've been through the challenge and the journey, so I understand that. I need to completely agree with you. While we would like life to go back to normal once we resume work, a year or even 6 months is a lifetime in any organization's journey. And as managers who are managing the team, we also realize that we are often enough working in a week-to-week planning and crisis mode. Sort of planning that 6 months down the line is not done. So I think a couple of things, supportive manager helps here. Having a manager who believes in you and is willing to sort of take the bet on you being able to transition easily helps. Incidentally, most of my managers were men, and they were immensely supportive when I came back. So while usually we expect more empathetic response from a largely female leadership, in my case, it was not that. So right from getting back to the role I wanted to transitioning back to working from home for years and years, everything was sort of negotiated with male managers, and it worked out fine. So I'd say that really you need a support structure inside and outside work to help you negotiate that, because marriage, mobility, and maternity are the three important criteria which sort of make or break your career.
Absolutely. So on that note, let's just move towards the closing remark because the next panel is also ready, and I'm sure people are willing to listen to more nuggets. So the theme this year is Choose to Challenge. So very quickly, what do you choose to challenge? Sushmita, starting with you, rapid fire.
I choose to challenge any kind of stereotype that pulls women down. And I choose to challenge that my future generation is going to get a better mindset around women and men, both as leaders. Thank you.
Gitika.
Yes, Meetu. And I choose to challenge people who are assumptuous, they are judgmental. They don't even think once before taking a decision, that you are just assuming things and judging people on certain criteria which don't even exist sometimes. So that I absolutely go ahead and want to challenge those people that please do not assume and just judge on some internal just coming out of a gut feeling. So look at the facts, what someone brings on the table, and then make wise decisions around it.
Thank God. What do you choose to challenge, Bhuvaneshwari?
I choose to challenge the imposter syndrome. I choose to challenge people believing that anybody, gender agnostic, right, be it a man or a woman, is lesser competent than what they actually are. Yeah, that's what I choose to challenge.
And over to you, Preeti. Quick.
So, Meetu, I think very much in sync with all the women voices over here, I definitely choose to challenge people who try to build a wall which is gender agnostic. So that's something I definitely want to break. And I think we are going that direction. So I hope we can make a change. So that's definitely my choose to challenge.
And Priya, what do you choose to challenge?
I choose to challenge the status quo. Don't be a part of the herd. Be a leader. Lead from the front.
Absolutely. And I choose to challenge the stereotypes that stay within our own heads, right? So before expecting others to really accept us the way we are, or accept women as a leader or professional who's more qualified, being heard, being noticed, allowing us to negotiate choices, all of that, we have to win all that battle first in our own head, that we can do it. And then, of course, as the world comes closer, they will be naturally and will be more accepting and inclusive towards us. So on that note, I think let's wrap up this session. Thank you so much for your time. And I really think, we can just go on and on discussing this. It's a topic which is so, close to our heart. And all of us have questioned the stereotype. We all have, been gender benders. So definitely, it's a conversation that we can keep going on and on about. But in the interest of time, let's end it here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Meetu. Thank you so much, panelists. I think, again, a very poignant conversation on leadership. Thank you all very much. And here's the little poem from your conversation. Leaky pipelines, struggling for sustainability, fighting stereotypes, making the presence felt, leveraging compassion, getting past the subliminal conditioning, asking to be treated right. Trust the inner voice and become advocates for yourselves. Negotiate your choices, be visible and show up. Surviving to thriving, the shift that we need to make. Global or local, work and professionalism, ride on the value that you bring to the table. Address your ecosystem, use your mind, unlock creativity. Financial independence leads to empowerment, so don't shy away from decisions. Financial literacy and healthcare a priority. The lens of effective leadership, how feminine is not really a gender, but an aspect of personality. Traits are irrespective of gender, and striving for balance is the need of the hour. Success in professions don't know gender, don't judge by gender, it's people who do. So there you go.
Lovely. Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you
so much. Absolutely lovely, Shreya. Thank you so
Shreya.
much.
Thank you, Shreya.
That's such a beautiful
How well
combination of all our
summarized.
thoughts.
Yeah, how
It was a
beautifully
pleasure.
summarized into a poem, Shreya.
Wow.
And
Thank
it's so
you,
fantastic to see you after the last time I met you in Bangalore.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think it's nice to have these conversations because at least you get to meet people this way. So on that note, thank you so much. There you go. Gender Bender or Gender No Bar. That was the panel on women in leadership, driving with purpose and fulfillment.